Hi everyone, I'm Jay Holder. I would just like to tell you about what music means to me. It's very soothing. It hits the right spot. Also as well, a very famous quote from Bob Marley is, one good thing about music is when it hits you feel no pain. So true. It's pretty much my go-to when I've got things in my mind. If I want to go out for a run, sometimes I put music on, have a good listen to music. Also, it brings back a lot of memories. It takes me back to happy times. It takes me back to when I used to go to jazz clubs with my brother. Also, when I used to go to the Eclipse and various different clubs, different parts of the world. I could be listening to reggae, which would remind me of Barbados. I could be listening to the Specials, which would remind me of hanging out at Henley Green when I was young. I could be listening to tracks by Fonda Ray, which would remind me of a place called Corners, which was up in Tyler, near the old university. So, yeah, music means a lot. It's very, very soothing, and I think I'd be pretty much lost without it. I think dance is a big release. It can be a real expression of how you feel. You might want to let off some steam. Go and have a good dance. But again, that's the key to listening to music that you enjoy. If you enjoy the music, you can express yourself by having a good dance. And again, that's down to, DJs playing music. Most good DJs will not play a track themselves if they wouldn't dance to it. For me, that's the key of being a good DJ. If you're going to dance to the music yourself, you play it. And by playing good music that you dance to yourself, you're going to get a lot of people on the dance floor that are going to express themselves as well. Hedonistic, lost, soulful. Music really comes from the heart as well.
So music is really everything. If it wasn't for music, I wouldn't have met my partner, I wouldn't have had the friends that I have, because we all met in clubs back in the day, on the dance floor, in the toilets as well, because that's what you do when you go to a club. But yeah, so music's really important to me. My partner's a DJ, so at home we've got his DJ equipment, and so he plays his tunes. Last week I been in lockdown for so long and I'm feeling kind of stressed because I've not had any music in my life, or not been out to any live venues, so we just put some funk music on. I took my shoes off and I was dancing around the garden, and I just felt free. Yeah, it just really inspired me and invigorated me. Obviously, having a gin helped as well, but yeah, music is definitely key to our life. So for me, music's really important as a way to release your energy and release your emotions. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling sad, you can always put a tune on that makes you happy. And that's what, when I work with young people, that's what I tell them to do. When you're feeling frustrated or angry, find that music that can turn your mood around, because there'll be one track that you can put on and within a split second, your whole mood, your whole persona has changed and you're ready to fight the world again. So dancing, I don't know whether I'm a very good dancer, but I do love dancing. I think there's nothing more when you go out to a club and you can just express yourself on the dance floor, especially when your mates are there and you're all sort of dancing off against each other. And yeah, I probably don't do as much of it now as I used to, but it used to be a really big part of our lives, because we would go to clubs and dance the night away right until the very early hours. And yeah, they'd be dragging us off the dance floor. So it had such a big impact on our lives, really, because it's how we met a lot of people. It was how we interacted. Yeah, dance and music are real social elements to life. Powerful. Social. Love. Freedom. Joy. Heartfelt. Power. Mindful. Embracing.
Music is super important, because what I often find anyway is how I'm feeling, I reflect it in what I listen to. So if I'm really sad, I'll find a track that maybe can be uplifting, and sometimes I'll just go with it and cry, I guess, but it can help us hit conversations that are sometimes difficult. I think I remember making a mixtape for someone, recording from the radio, don't obviously copyright and stuff. But yeah, I remember recording specific songs from the radio and giving it to someone when I was younger because I liked them and I wanted them to know. So yeah, I think that's why music's important. It's a language that's universal. Dancing and dance is super important too. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been out in a club and you make lifelong friends on the dance floor, just throwing shapes. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what you've been through. In that moment, at that time, everybody's moving together. It's amazing. Music is power, unity, togetherness.
Hi, I'm Gaylita. I'm from Coventry, brought up in Belgrade, and I'm going to tell you a few stories about music and how important it has been in my life, and dance, of course. So I grew up in a house full of music. We had the Amstrad hi-fi unit thing, and we used to listen to Top of the Pops compilation albums quite a lot. My mum loved those ones, and we had a bit of Johnny Mathis was there as well. My mum liked all the old crooners, and then loads and loads of clearly lots of male singers. What was the one? Who's the one I can't remember. Scott Walker. Yeah. Scott Walker. My brother's called Scott after Scott Walker. My brother's called Scott after Scott Walker. My sister's called Joanna after a song by Scott Walker. So that was my childhood. I've got a 16-year-old son and he can't go out. So he goes out with his friends. But when I was 15, I used to go in Coventry to Mango's. Oh my God. Studio 21. And then I think you had to be about 16 to get in there. I used to borrow my mum's heels, white stilettos to get in to make me look older. And we used to dance. The music then would have been about 1984, 85, something like that. And we used to dance to loads of all the Michael Jackson and everything, proper dance floors. It was all sofas all around the dance floor, and the floor used to light up. It was amazing, and I was just a superstar on the dance floor. When I was growing up, I went to dance classes. I'm Irish, obviously, with this mad hair. And I did dance classes my whole life. So when I got to about 16, I was asked to join the amazing Second Skin dance troupe from Coventry. And we used to do all the promotional things in the club. So we would do a Hawaiian Tropic night. We'd all dress up in hula skirts and do the shows. I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. I loved dancing so much. I went on holiday to Ibiza in 1987. And for a week on Club 1830, and I stayed for 18 years. I'm a raver. Yeah, this is what ravers look like in middle age. I went to Ibiza in 1987 when I was 19, and I got offered a job dancing on the podium in Discoteca Ecstasis, and I stayed there for 18 and a half years. It was just, I was living a life in music. It was amazing. It was all about the music. We all used to go and meet in Cafe Del Mar, which you might have heard of. They've got a whole load of CDs. We used to meet there because there were no smartphones. No one had a phone. No one had a landline. So if you didn't go to Cafe Del Mar at sunset, you wouldn't know where the party was. So we all used to meet there, and we couldn't afford a coffee or anything to sit in the actual coffee shop. We'd sit on the beach, we'd sit on the stones with a cheese baguette and a bottle of San Miguel. And then we'd all go off, and because we were so beautifully dressed, there was a little tribe of us. It was my people, We used to rock up to the clubs, and we'd just go straight into the VIP. And we were just so fabulous and international and glamorous, And people out in Spain never heard of Belgreen, so it was like it's like when you tell people in Coventry you're from Belgreen, they're like, oh, okay. But one of the main differences that I think was, it's the physical experience of getting on the dance floor with people and seeing those smiling faces. It ain't the same on social media. You think you're watching, you're looking at videos and Snapchats and Instagram and little stories, and you think, oh yeah, that looks really cool. But you don't connect on that deeper level like you do when you're looking someone in the eye, And we all know this with the recent issues we've had. We've all missed hugs a lot. We all need a hug, and to go out with your mates and you were all wearing your crazy clothes and dancing and standing on things, and we were so full of joy, and you would just hug and kiss people all the time. So you can't get a hug off Instagram. You might think that you can, but you can't. Yeah. I recently did one of these test your core values things on the internet, and apparently I'm 100% hedonist. It's the liberation. If I don't dance, you can ask my husband over there. If I don't dance, I'm not Gaylita. I have to be out there throwing the shapes down, and I have to be the sexiest one on the dance floor. It's got to be all about me. You know, these introverted people. That's not me. And now we share our love of music with the radio show. We do Brunch with the Baddies every Sunday. The only one we've ever missed was the day we got married. And we just share our music and our stories with people. And it's really gorgeous, really beautiful. Yeah, exhilarating, liberating, freedom. Oh, I've got goosebumps even thinking about it. Truth, reality, authentic, passion, spirit.
Music's everything to me. I was brought up in a house full of music. My grandmother was a piano teacher. Her mother lived with us. So 3 generations in one house. And she was she used to be known as the Burmese Nightingale. She was a singer in the clubs in India in the 20s. And every moment of my life is about music. And the thing is, there wasn't anything else to do really, apart from listen to music. There literally wasn't anything to do as a teenager. My wall in my bedroom was just covered in David Bowie posters. I liked him because of the passion and the change he brought about perceptions of people, sexuality and gender. And that really opened people's eyes. There wasn't really anything else. You had 3 channels on the television. There was no Sky, there was no telephones. Funny though, whenever you spoke to somebody on a landline, they were always in. And that was the culture. But you knew when to go out. You knew where everybody was going to be. It was just an automatic thing. And it was about the passion of music, bringing people together. You just knew something was going to kick off. Something great when you went to see a band. And I grew up in Birmingham. And around the time of some fabulous music, and also in Coventry, used to come over there quite a lot when I did a bit of music journalism. So I saw the specials, The Beat, Steel Pulse, Duran Duran. A really great time to be in music, and just going out in the streets at night. You just knew where everything was, and you knew where everything was going to be. You knew where the party was going to be, and it was just your tribe of people there. It was really, really special. The connection with people, that was the big thing. You know, in COVID, one of the things I've missed hugely is people, because we're real people, me and Gail, and it's the music brought you together far more than social media could ever do, really, although it tries. Just that knowledge that you know something musically that your friend does, that connection, that sharing, massive communication, often without talking, just listening. And so childhood really and growing up was all about music, and it still is.
Well, I was brought up with the radio always on, and my mum listening to music, my dad listening to Irish records, and I remember at school we used to have they used to have big brass bands used to come in and perform, and you know, like everyone would be given like an instrument. I used to the xylophone where you used to get a little circle thing and you'd hit these metal things, and then when breakdancing sort of arrived, we sort of learned that we could move to music, and I can remember that being exciting, that all of a sudden listening to music and moving to it came together. And that's why, even to this day, I love to hear new sounds and find old sounds and introduce my children and friends, and have made it sort of part of how I make a living. So yeah, music's very important. It's tribal, it's natural. I think it's part of all of us, and sometimes it can bring you back to a place, a time, a feeling, a smell. It's life itself, really. It's very, very, very important to me. Very important. that's sort of what I've been documenting in some of the pieces of work I've been doing with the reflection stuff. Men didn't used to dance, well, in the 80s and stuff. A lot of men would just stand around. Dancing was for, you know, the phrase was for gays, for girls. But every so often something comes along where people have the opportunity to lose their inhibitions and dance, and it makes people high, and it's a way of releasing negative energy and creating an atmosphere and an environment where you can sort of forget your problems, your worries, things that are getting you down, and move to the rhythm. And I think that's something that we do as children, and some people only now and then when they're intoxicated remember that they really enjoy dancing, and it's good for the soul. For me, dancing is a freedom when nobody's watching, but even when watching other people dancing can be an enjoyable thing, when you can see other people smiling and happy, and I think it releases something in your brain and your body where you feel happy. And sometimes when it's mixed with other elements, you know, the sort of, you know, a rave or a nightclub, and lights and darkness, and the sound being like intoxicating and possibly so loud that you're not going to be able to talk to anybody, you can sort of go to a different place and maybe express yourself in a way that possibly you don't express yourself in any other way, and people on looking can see that you're letting yourself go, and possibly buzz off that and feel that they can let themselves go as well. And I think that's an important thing that we're not all reminded of all the time. I've seen Coventry change on about 4 or 5 different occasions, from the early 80s when I was growing up, to the arrival of house music and ecstasy in Coventry, to then later on in the mid 90s with the arrival of jungle drum and bass, to then maybe the late 90s when we had another revival of nightclubs, the Foundry, the Planet, the Coliseum. You know, we had big promoters coming to Coventry, we had big artists from around the world coming to Coventry, and it was again that energy and vibe around the city, very much the same of the early 90s when Amnesia House and the Eclipse changed worldwide youth culture with their house music, which then went on to the hardcore sound in Coventry. Music is a big thing for Coventry. I don't know how it does it, but it stops young people fighting and brings out this creative, this sort of an explosion of energy and music being created, flyers being designed, clubs being decorated, performers having the opportunity to do things on stage, people picking up microphones, singing, talking. It's infectious. And when other people come to Coventry and they see what Coventry can do, they go away and then take that energy and, you know, new kind of wave, and they bring it to other places, and then they nurture it, and then other people there pick up on it, and then before you know it, there's lots of people sort of replicating what's going on in Coventry and taking it around the world. And we saw exactly the same thing with Ska and the Specials and the Beat and the Selector, and it happened before that as well with, you know, theatre and performances in Coventry. So yeah, there's something very special that happens in Coventry, and it usually comes from the streets or young people or old people that are possibly written off in education and written off in normal society. But when they do something with music or dance or performance, it changes the world. It really does. And I've seen it on a few occasions now. And I wasn't even old enough to experience the whole two-tone thing. So, yeah, we've got something special. I think we need to celebrate it a bit more and let young people know that they should be documenting what they're doing now, because no one's going to do it for them. And in time, something special will happen again. What about that?
One of the most important things about actual music, I think, is actually is dance and how people. So being out is important, not just to listen in the house. It's actually go out, communicate, dance, get on the dance floor, enjoy yourself, and communicate that way. And various ways of expressing yourself on the dance floor is great to get out and just basically listen to what you like, show how you like the music and how you generate yourself to you, whether you want to jump up and down, pogo, dance, swivel, do backflips or whatever. I think that's a very important part, as well as like sitting down, the meditative side of it and various things that other people get. Jazz dance, northern soul, rave, hip hop, electronica, punk. I think people go back to their youth and start thinking of things they remember in terms of events. And in Coventry, we've got such a history. Maybe going right back from the days of Tiffany's and Locarno, and Led Zeppelin apparently at Tiffany's in the early 70s, going through to the Sex Pistols at Mr George's, onto all the big two-tone events with the Specials, the Select and Madness, and then on into the Eclipse in later years. And we're still looking now for the heritage of like music, dance music and club culture that we're trying to develop in the city. Ska, rock, two-tone.
The power of music, unlike reading a book, the minute you hear the sound of a record, it can take you straight back to a memory or a feeling or excitement or however that piece of music would make you feel. If you read a book, it can be completely empowering, but it doesn't take you back as quickly and as dramatically as listening to a piece of music, which is how I find how it affects me and my lifestyle. Growing up in the 70s, music was, the excitement of going out, buying a single, wearing the badges, the clothes, everything that came with the whole package of that piece of music to make you stand out from everybody else that might be into different music. You had a statement look or feel, and then going out to clubs and nightclubs to just dance to that music and just be free and in the moment is, just completely exhilarating. The beat or the rhythm of a piece of music that you're either massively into or you get straight away, dancing really comes naturally with that, and to just feel free and forget things, and it's just the power of music and dance combined. Back in the day, in the early 80s, I guess, when I was massively into, well, still am into David Bowie, and so me and a couple of friends, we decided to skip school for a week, got away with it for a week, and we spent our whole time listening to Bowie albums and dissecting the entire albums and tracks and literally writing down the words and repeating them and singing them to each other. It was just something that we had to get to the bottom of and listen and enjoy, and it's something I've never ever forgotten. And music's so easily available, the words, etc., but then it was just something that you had to do. If you really enjoyed, if you really, you know, were a fan of something, you really wanted to know every single piece of that music, and that's what we did. Passion, love, excitement, rebellion, enjoyment, freedom, excitement.
People call me a DJ, but I've never really call myself that. Or if someone says, "What's your job?" I never say DJ, because it isn't. I very rarely earn money from it. In a way, most people know me as a photo miner, so I think I'm probably stimulated by images and the visuals, and in a way that's true, but also sound has the same effect on me as well. I'm easily distracted, as most people know, and both visuals and music, sound, both sort of provide an environment for me to live in, and those distractions are important to me. I'm not a clubber. Most places I'm probably banned from dancing in a way that people get banned from drinking. So I've never been into dancing, and I don't particularly the club thing. I like to talk with people and to people, so the club atmosphere is never good for that either. Having said that, over the years I've been in all those big places. I never went to the Eclipse when it was underground. I went there when there were big names that played there. In the mid-90s, but I always made an effort to try and go and to hear new things, and I like the sound system. One of my memories is of helping the guys in Hillfields put on sound systems in the student union in the early 80s. We got banned eventually, but in the meantime, opened my ears and my eyes to the world of chest heaving bass and those sort of experiments. Always been into experimental music as well, so always been into things like Delia Derbyshire and Tangerine Dream in the early days, and anything that This Heat, massive band in the 70s for me, just made what other people considered to be noise, but out of those noises I can hear tunes. Takes me back to, in terms of DJing, I think a bit like, not that I'm anywhere near the same league, but I probably align myself more with Jerry Dammers in terms of I pick tunes that I think that my head thinks fit together. Some people that works, some people it doesn't. So I get the reactions from some people like, "Oh, I can see why you played that now," or other people going, "Why did you play those two together?" So there are things in music that set off trains of thoughts in the same way that with photographs, you can set up a train of thought that starts piecing one photograph to another and starts trying to tell some sort of story. Sometimes I've no idea what the story is, but in the end, I'm quite happy to share those things with other people and see what they think as well. I don't dance, however. I do understand the ability of music to move people, and I use the expression like that in both ways. So to move people physically and to move people emotionally. So I do get the connection between that. I have no idea how to get people to dance. Having said that, sometimes when I'm DJing, I do realise that I've filled the floor and I've no idea how. I read books about DJing and people talk about how to curate the night and how to get, and it doesn't work for me. I don't do it like that. But having said that, I do enjoy seeing people enjoying themselves, and that whole thing about space and movement, it works. I mean, for instance, those old films of, normally they're overdubbed with the things they clearly weren't dancing to because they didn't have soundtracks for some of those early reggae things where people are skanking to the ska tunes, and I can tell they're not dancing to that tune because it doesn't fit for me. But that whole thing about how people have danced over time fascinates me, even if I can't do it myself and won't do it myself. The liberating thing about music is it's incredibly difficult to put labels on. People put labels on it all the time, but then the brilliant thing is there's always something new that comes up and disrupts that. I mean, I've not particularly been a John Peel in terms of always trying to find the next new thing, but certainly my early years of music buying was suddenly taken from that sort of middle class white grammar school boy world of prog rock and some of the bands I still like, into that punk thing. So that thing where there's suddenly decisions to be made, or there's suddenly a fluxus going on that you don't quite know where it's going. The same thing happened when I discovered through punk, through being in Manchester in '78, finding reggae effectively. And I suppose most recently, I thought there was a chink of light when the whole drum and bass thing started off. It felt a little bit like there was something new going on. The underground fascinates me, so the sort of the avant-garde underground, but also that underground of the everyday. And certainly with Craig, we've sort of been exploring that whole sort of northern soul thing in a way some of those really actually quite cheesy kind of populist tunes, but they had their own underground, had their own people who sort of coveted them and made them their own music, even though it was thousands of miles from where the music was made. It's about the club space itself. I know that is important to me, even though I don't dance. Not actually, I wouldn't describe myself as being into any of the club scenes. However, two things about it that I think are really important. One is, the good thing about clubs is, if they get it right, they've got the ability to make the music sound good. So in a way, you can't make it sound in your home. So you've got either the volume or the depth. And those clubs that for me are the best clubs are the ones that know how to harness their room and to make the sound. And of course, the other thing, you've got people in there. And it's that interaction of the sound and the people, because those are the conversations that happen beforehand. They're the conversations people have afterwards. And that's what, to me, moves all those other things on and connects people in their everyday lives.
I'm sometimes Sean. I'm a member of the band Warriors of the Discotheque, which is a band of international musicians based here in Coventry, Northern Ireland, France, and over in New York as well. So I've also been a DJ in the city for over 20 years. I play alternative sounds, so generally you could find me in the second or third room of a club, or maybe DJing on a Thursday night, or in one of the more left field venues. So I've had residencies where I started off at the Coliseum around 1999, I think, and then on to Carey's and Dogma, the old Taylor Johns, Inspire, Drapers, and I'm currently residing in Twisted Barrel. I'd recently re-established a night that I was running with DJ Flipside in Drapers, which was called Wolf, which is a celebration of lo-fi music from around the world. And the guys that run Twisted Barrel said how pleased they were with the turnout, and it was indeed a great night. And I think that just sort of shows the need for these social spaces, so that people with, alternative tastes, for want of a better word, have somewhere to come together and enjoy, each other's company, and doing that through great music. Unification, multiculturalism, celebration, socialising.
Hi, my name's Meshell, and I am from Coventry, and I enjoy mixing tunes and doing a bit of DJing. My musical journey began when I was 5 years old, and I started to learn the piano, and then I went on to the violin. I was in an orchestra for a couple of years, the Coventry Intermediate Orchestra, which was an amazing experience to have been able to take part in. Unfortunately, I stopped playing the violin. I carried on the piano until my early 20s. When I was 16, I started going clubbing, and I used to go to places like the Coliseum, and also places in Birmingham, where I was able to hear house music and garage music, which is what I now like to mix. How I first got into DJing was my daughter's father, who has sadly passed away now. He he enjoyed DJing and he wanted to get some decks. So we got some simple CD decks and we used to mess around on them. He got me into the old school music, which I now mix as well, and I enjoy mixing that too. So together we used to mess around on just some simple CD decks. And then we upgraded them, and then sadly he passed away, and I thought that would be the end of my DJing. People were asking us to do parties for them, so we're just doing them for our love of music and our love of DJing and people enjoying themselves. So that was it really for us, nothing more. And then I was bought some more decks for my birthday from my sister, so I carried on DJing using them, and I was still getting asked to do parties and school fetes and school discos and private gigs. And then I met my friend Matt Hardy, who showed me on the latest equipment, and I was able to do it on the latest club equipment, and I was able to purchase my own decks, my own controller, which I use now. I've had it for about 4 years, and it's one of the best well spent money I've ever bought something for. And yeah, so that's where it's gone. So yeah, I've had a few good gigs, a few good club gigs, and I get a lot of private party gigs, which is fun. I enjoy making people happy. It's hard to please everybody sometimes, but when you've got it good and everyone's on the dance floor, it's a really good buzz. You can't beat that feeling. Music means a lot to everyone. Music is a massive influence in our world. It affects everybody, whatever colour, race, disability. Everyone can relate to music and relate back to music. It's very powerful in that sense that we can feel a lot of emotions, happy emotions, sad emotions, bringing people together in many different ways, and it has a very positive influence on the lives of a lot of people, and that's where we need to use it the most, to make it positive, and the influence to have a positive effect on us and of our children and our teenagers. Music is also a good form of therapy. It helps a lot of people in a lot of ways, especially when it's uplifting. It can change your mood, the way you're feeling. It can bring back memories. It can bring back memories of people, of times that you've shared together. And along with music comes singing and dancing, and they are such positive things in themselves. As a DJ, if I can make a dance floor dance, then that I know that I've done my job properly, and I can go home and feel good. My main influences have been my daughter's dad, and other commentary DJs around the city. There's too many to mention, but a lot of them have had a big impact on the music I like, on the music that I play, on the music that I mix and deliver, especially for the house music and the old school music. For the garage music, it'd definitely be the Birmingham DJs and the London DJs and MCs. They've had a massive effect on the garage that I play. When I started clubbing, I lived for clubbing. That was it. It was literally out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. As much as I could get out. I absolutely loved it. They were the best times. And I wouldn't change that either. Club culture and dancing is definitely important for everyone to experience, as it's, unless you've experienced you'll never know what it's like going in the club and listening to the music and dancing and everybody being happy, and you know, when you're on that dance floor, there isn't any negative things happening around you. When you're on the dance floor, everyone's united, and it's liberating. You make friends so easily. Everyone wants to be friends with everyone. There's no trouble, and it's just a really good place to be able to express yourself, and listening to good music at the same time helps, and it's and more than anything, it's fun. Music is food for the soul. Powerful, uplifting, magical, soothing, relaxing, mood setting, happiness, emotional, liberating, passionate, passion.
I think as an overall, generally music's important because it just feeds the soul. You know, it's a universal language. You know, it can reach out to anybody, everybody, anywhere. It can portray a whole load of feelings and emotions. And for myself, everything I've just said is exactly how it works for me. You know, if I'm happy, I'm listening to some happy music. If I'm feeling a bit down, I'll put something a bit more melancholy on. You know, it's a great way for people to come together and share a general theme of bonding together with the music and stuff like that, really. So I think especially now in these conditions and the way the world's going or has been going, music is a great way to bring people together. So, you know, we talk about the tracks that we like, and up on the social media, 10 tracks for 10 days, what they mean to you and stuff like that. And it gives you an insight into a person as well, when they're telling you the sort of tracks that they like, what they're listening to. And also it's almost like judging a book by the cover. But people will give you some tracks, amazing bits of music, which you'd think, I never thought they were into that sort of thing. So, you know, it opens up a whole world of exploration and discovery. It began for me probably around about the age of 3, I think, when my sisters wanted a piano, and we got one, and I started tinkering around on it, and it became apparent that I had some magic fingers. So I started to play the piano when I was at an early age, and from then on, everything subconsciously and consciously was all linked to music. So I think that was the start on my path down this on this road, on this journey. For me, it was the feeling of we were part of a movement. As I said, I was born in the 70s and grew up through into the 80s, mid 80s, in 85, 86, when dance music started to come up through. I was of the age when I was, attracted to it alongside my friends and other young youth from the city. And it was just something we were drawn to. I think when you look at all these periods in time, musical periods, when there's been movements, it's always come from political unrest. And at that time, we were coming out of political unrest with factories on miners' strike and things like that. So when you look at, ska, punk, all these other genres, there's always been a political element to it and a movement to it. And that was the same when dance music was coming through for our generation. It was associated with a political element to it. And as the youth, we were disaffected. We weren't happy. We wanted to see change, and this became our calling card to try and implement change. And as I said, it was a movement that just captured the time, the tone of the times at that specific time. Do you know what? I think it's. I was going to say primeval. I think it's the fact that it is accessible. It's at its basic core, it's a straight 4/4 beat, which is a simple beat. But dance music as a whole has been part of youth culture for over 30 years. So as a music genre, it's lasted a long space of time. If you look at some of the other genres that have come through, I said I've used punk before and used ska in relation to the two-tone era. They were around for a while, but their popularity faded away. Not to say that it's not a popular genre now. People are still into ska and still into punk. But when you look at the fact that dance music's been here for 30 years and it's still progressing, still growing, and 3 generations of youth have come into it and are still involved in it, it's such a massive driver, and the way it's an inclusive element that brings people together again, it's poignant for what's happening in the world today. We're seeing a lot of divide, but the message behind dance music is all about inclusivity and bringing everyone together. Awesome. It's just, do you know what? You said liberating. It is liberating. It's awesome. It's inspiring. It's energizing. It's special. It's. If I could remember all my words, I could go on all night long and all day long. It's inspirational. It's just, as I said, to be involved in the scene for 30 years myself, as a career. I enjoyed it before. I'm not giving my age away here, but still to be inspired by it, and to be inspired by everyone who's involved with it from all walks of life and from all ages. Some of the music I'm hearing from the young talent that's coming through now is exceptional. It's absolutely amazing. And then some of the stuff I'm hearing from my peers and the older statesmen in the industry, still there's some great stuff. So as I said, it's inspirational. It's unique.
Hi, I'm DJ Tom Maloney. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about music, how I got into it and what it means to me. First of all, how I got into music. I was a footballer when I left school. I thought I was going to play football. Due to injury, I could no longer pursue that career, which turned me to music and the early clubbing days in the 90s in Birmingham, where I got to watch the likes of Andy Farley, Mark Jarman, all the Tintin's crew, Crazy Daisies lot. And it really got me into music, got me up, got my spirits up, got me into a place where I could release myself. Watching the people come together and the unity on the dance floor and being a part of it in the 90s was a big factor of me becoming a DJ. And then I got to play with the DJs who I want to admire. And I've done many events with them DJs throughout, which has been a right honour, especially people like Andy Farley, who I absolutely idolise. So music to me means passion, release, energy, remembering good times. Just memories of times in your life. It can take you straight back when you hear a certain tune, certain places, faces, clubs, and good times. And I've touched upon the 90s. For me, that was the era, the pinnacle of the dance scene. Since the 90s, I'd say Coventry has probably lost its clubbing a little bit, which I feel sorry for the younger generation coming through. There's not much to offer, but it's slowly picking back up, and there's a few more going on the dance floor at the minute. There's some good events going on around Coventry at the minute, and it's getting a little bit better, but still to me, the 90s was the time and the place to be and live. Dance to me, in terms of culture, just means people coming together to enjoy yourself, have a good time. Watching people dance, to me, dancing on the dance floor, especially when I'm DJing, and watching them come together and having a good time, it just gives you such a good feeling. You can feel the vibe, you can feel the atmosphere change. It's atmospheric, it's uplifting, it's positive, and it's unity is definitely a good word. It brings people together, unites people. So for me, dance music is nothing but positive vibes, bringing good people together for a good time. Yeah, definitely. Club culture for me is something that has died off over the last, like I said again, from when I was a bit younger. There's not so much of it. People going out clubbing, the expense of it, the choice of what's on. It's not as fast as what it used to be. But for the youth of today, I think going out has always been a mainstay of anyone's culture. But for clubbing particularly, it's people partying, coming together in different situations. I think it's got a big part of culture, and I think that's what a little bit of what's missing out of this day and age is the culture of that. You know, getting ready, getting your friends, getting on a coach, or going out to a club, out of the city even. Part of that for me was big when I was growing up. So I think the culture has definitely died off, but you can see it peaking a little bit more. I think with lockdown and everything else, we'll see it rise again, because a lot of people are really keen to get out. So it might give the industry a little bump that it needed, and the people as well, you know, for a chance for people to come together and celebrate. Music for me is energy. It gives you energy. I use it to get energetic, get the clean on. Anything, driving, it's a distraction from life. You can lose yourself and just get lost in music. It's a journey, somewhere to take you away from the stresses and strains of everyday life. I always like upbeat, positive music, positive lyrics, lots of piano, and just good vibes, really. Music for me is energy, it's passion, it's sharing, something you can share with people, and just generally going out. It's just associated with a good time. Music is a good time. And music is the answer to our problems, of course. There you go.
Yeah, it's all right.